Okay, so in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to start up R, and I'll give you an introduction to the R terminal, the R application, and some of the simple data types and simple operations in R. Okay, so I'm assuming that you've installed it already, and this is I have a Mac here, so things will be slightly different on a PC. But we can find the R application in the applications folder. If we scroll down, it should have been installed in here, and we can start the application. And here you see the R console. Let's just close this. Here's the R console, which is where we do all our operations in R. They have various menus at the top up here, plus you also have these menus here, and some of them we will go through in due course. Okay, so here's the R prompt down here. Let's just start doing some commands. So we can do simple arithmetic. For example, let's do 2 times 2. And this prints the answer 4. So you can see actually, first of all, we use this assignment operator instead of an equals, which we would use in MATLAB, for example. And we can do various operations, or simple calculations. Use brackets. A plus B times 3, etc. And this is fairly simple, basic use. So there are 3 basic data types in R. We have the numerical type, so that's what we defined previously. We can use this class function within R to tell us what a variable type is. So the first type is numeric. Okay, the next type of data we have is a string, so let's call it S, and we'll do the familiar hello world. Okay, and again we can use the class function to find out information on S. So that's a character for storing strings and characters. The final data type that we won't really use much in this particular tutorial is the logic data type, which can be true or false. Logical. So now we go class again. Oops. And you see it's logical, and the other value that it can be is false. Again, logical. So they're the 3 basic types in R. Now, one of the very useful features of R is that we don't really deal with single values, or we tend not to deal with single values. We use vectors, and most operations involve vectors. And actually you can see up here, well, let me do it again, A times B, you can see this 1 here, and that signals that this returned value is actually a vector, and the first value is 4. Okay, now we can create vectors using the C operation. So we could create a vector and assign it to a variable V. Now V is a vector of type numeric, so if we look at the class of V again, it will say numeric. Now we can do operations on vectors just as we did with with just single values. So let's do v times 2, and it will perform that multiplication on every element of the vector. And this can be very useful. And let's define another vector. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have two vectors now, u and v, and we can perform addition with those two vectors. And this performs a standard vector addition. Now, if we want to access one of the elements in the vector, we use square brackets, as this would indicate. So u1 is 6, u5 is 10. What happens if we try and access a value off the end of the vector? So you can see u is 5 long. Have a look. It gives us a NA, which stands for missing data. So because we haven't filled that value, that's missing. We can, however, fill the value directly by going, for example, 11. Now when I print out u, we've added that extra element on the end of the vector. Okay, so how do we find out the length of a vector? Well, we can use the inbuilt R function length. And that's now 6 long. And v was 5 long. What happens if we try and add u and v now? We get an error message because the two vectors aren't of the same size, and the operation is illegal.